Alright, friends. Today I'm going to talk about how to containerize or use Docker container to run your web application. In particular, the excuse me, the web application developed by Angular. So Angular web application. So here I have made a Angular application using Angular CLI, and very easy. If you use IntelligentJ, you can very easily make one yourself. You can just go new project, and here you have option to choose Angular project. And so anyway, I made my Angular project using the plugin or some built-in functionalities from IntelligentJ, and you can also do that by yourself using Angular CLI. Very easy, just one line of command. So if I run my Angular application, so it's called single web page application, and so if I run ng-serve under the development mode and compiled successfully, I'm going to drag a tab of web page, and if I go to localhost 4200, and you will see that this page is showing up. This is powered or backed by the Angular application that I have here. And if I Control C to stop the Angular, and if I refresh again, the site is no longer reachable. Okay. So today I like to talk about how to use Docker to run Angular project. So Angular, so the command that we run was Angular serve, and there is another command that we can run with Angular, which is to build Angular. So another command we can run is npm run build, and we can use -- production. Okay, so if we run this is going to build entire project, and there will be a distribution generated, and inside the distribution folder you will find all the files that you want to run or put on your server inside a particular directory, if you will. So this will take some time, depending on how fast. It just finished. Okay. So as you can see, a distribution folder just appeared or generated, and inside distribution folder is the application, all the files that we want to put to the server, whichever server you like to host your web application. But it would be easier if you can run your application inside a Docker container, and when you deploy your Angular project, all you need to do is to deploy the Docker image, and as long as your server has a Docker running, and then the Docker can create a container for the image, and your image can be run on the container by Docker. Anyway, this is the idea that we like to do in this video. So first I'm going to do is to navigate to the development folder, which is the current directory that I am in, so I can run this command to see if I'm inside the project folder. Another way you can check is to use ls to display all the files inside the folder, and as you can see, we are inside the project folder. And then the next thing we want to do is to create a file, and we're going to call that file Docker file. So we're going to use touch Docker file. Okay, so just make sure that Docker file is created. Okay, sure. So it is created. So next we're going to modify the Docker file. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger. I'm going to insert something. So I'm not going to type everything by hand. So I'm going to copy and paste what I already configured myself. Yeah. So basically there are two stages here defined. So all the lines begin with or started with Pongsan. They are comments. So we have stage 1, which is build stage, and in that stage we want to pull node Alpine Docker image. So this is a Docker image we want to use to run the node. So next would be the actual command. So this is saying that we want to pull Docker image node, and so this is version of the node, and hyphen with Alpine. So this is just to say that we want this particular image for the node, and we want to name it as build. And next, as you can see from comment here, we want to create a virtual directory inside the Docker. Okay, so inside the Docker image. So for now, the directory inside the Docker would be my app. And the next thing is to clean the cache. And so we're going to run. Okay, so this is run command. We're going to run npm cache clean, and we're going to force to clean things up. And the next thing we want to do is to copy everything from current directory, which is the project directory, right? So we are currently at the project directory, and we check that by using pwd command. And we want to copy everything in the current directory to the directory we just specified inside the Docker image, which is my app here. Okay, so and so after that we want to run npm install, which is going to install all the dependencies, right? So if you are if you are familiar with Angular, you know that there's a file called package.json and the package -lock.json, and these two files are also going to be copied into the corresponding directory. And when we run npm install, so these two files, the package.json and package-lock.json, are going to be looked at and compared against to make sure that all the dependencies are downloaded and installed and ready for running our Angular app. And next is the build, right? So we run npm run build and -- production. Okay, so that would be the first stage. Okay, first stage is just like what I showed you here, generating a distribution folder. And here we make sure that we want to map that into the correct location inside the Docker image. Okay, so the next stage, we want to run the application, right? So again, we're going to pull this image, and the way we run it is that we're going to use something called nginx which is a server. We can use this server to run web applications. So, the first line here from nginx colon latest. So this is saying we want to pull the latest version of nginx from Docker Hub, and we want to name it as ngi, or short for nginx server. And we're going to use this image to run our web application. Next, we're going to copy the compiled files, which is everything inside that distribution folder, to nginx folder. So we're going to map that. Okay, so here the next command, copy. So this is saying that we are copying everything from the build stage. Right? So as you can see, a build stage is from here. So we name this stage as build. And we want to copy everything from build stage in the, so that is from, well, we are going to have to change this a little bit, because we're no longer in this distribution folder. So I'm going to copy that. So pass from current root from registry. I guess from from current root dist distribution. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just distribution. Distribution and demo, I think, because we want to copy everything inside demo, not just distribution folder. And so the root folder inside Docker image would be my app, and the distribution folder will be generated from the first stage into my app folder, and inside distribution folder there's demo folder, and all the compiled files would be inside the demo folder. And we want to copy everything compiled in that demo folder into or over to nginx server in this path here. Okay, so the next one, next step, we want to copy nginx configuration file. So we don't have a configuration file yet, but we are going to create a nginx configuration file next. So last but not the least, we want to expose port 80. So this is saying that the server is going to listen into port 80, and in the Docker container, if we run, if we create container based off the image that we're going to create, and we also need to make sure that we map external port to the internal port, that is the port exposed inside the Docker image. Okay, so I guess we can save the file, and we can exit the file, and we can check if Docker file has everything we want to have. So stage 1 and stage 2, everything seems to be okay, and there's extra space there. So I'm not sure if this is going to cause problem, but let's try to fix it. So let's make sure that there's no actual unnecessary space characters there. Okay. So that's Docker file. Second step, we want to also create a Docker ignore. So again, we're going to touch Docker ignore, and so this is just like a git ignore, and so it functions a lot like git ignore, but this is for Docker. So this is for ignoring things. So then we're going to edit this file. I'm just going to copy and paste all the list of items I like to ignore from Docker, from creating Docker image. Okay. We'll write the file, create the file, just to make sure that we have everything. So double check, everything looks good. Okay. And so the next step is to create nginx configuration, which is the configuration for the server. We want to configure the server so that the server would be able to know where our application is, and also what is the index HTML inside the compile folder, and be able to call, or if a HTTP request coming, and the server would know how to respond to the request. So we are going to create again of a configuration file. So nginx config, and let's modify this file. And so again, I've already created this file, and so I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm going so let me make this a little bit more readable. So basically, what we want to do here is to define a server, and as you can see, the format is a lot like a curly brace enclosed format, which I don't know. I don't know if this is something you're familiar with, but this is how we're going to specify the configuration file for the nginx server. So first is we want to listen to port 80, and then the server name, which I have underscore here, and you can obviously name it a different name, use a different name, but it doesn't matter a lot for this demo. Okay. And then I set the root to be user share nginx, and the HTML, which is corresponding or in line with how we set the location in the Docker file. Right? So we have Docker file for that. Okay. So next we want to set up the location, and we have specified the directive try underscore files. Okay, so this is saying that we are looking for so this directive is saying that, and along with the location here is saying that we're going to look at the root directory, because we didn't specify any additional directories, and we're going to respond with whichever specified after this directive, whichever is found, right? So if we found this one, we respond with this one, with $sign URI, and obviously we are going to find this one, right? So as you can see, the distribution folder has index.html. So this is going to be found and used to respond to a request. And the reason we have this one here is because this directive requires multiple parameters. So we'll have to specify something here. Otherwise, if you just specify one parameters, after this directive. This is not going to work because this directive expects more than multiple or more than one parameters or items after it. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for that server. And we're going to write in the quit. Just make sure that we have this saved. Okay, so everything looks good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to create a Docker image. So very simple. The first thing you need to do is to install Docker. You should have Docker already installed on your laptop or your machine. In order to run Docker, in my case, I already have Docker installed. But if you don't have Docker installed, you should install Docker. So to create a Docker image, we use Docker build, and so we're going to create tag. So this parameter, this key is saying that we want to create a tag. So let's say we're going to, this is testing, we're going to tag it as test app like 1, and we're going to specify its version to be 1.0, and in the current directory. Okay, so there's a dot here. So we're going to hit enter. So this is generating the Docker image. And I have Docker desktop running on my laptop, on my machine. So I'm just going to bring this up, the Docker desktop, and then you can install that along with Docker. And very useful and convenient tool. Here you can see all the images that you pulled from Docker Hub, and also the running containers. If you don't have this tool installed, otherwise you would have to type in command line to view all the images. I guess I can show you how do we view images. So you can type in Docker in the image and ls. So this would display all the images, and then you can also I think that you can also display the containers. There's no running containers currently, and we can go to the container. So we have 2 containers, but none of them is running. Let's see if it's finished or not. Oh, it's finished. So a Docker image named testing app 1 is created. So let's see if this image is there. So image is So this is the image, the Docker image that we just created for our Angular application. So next we're going to run the image. We're going to create a container and use that container to run, or we're going to create a container off from the image and to run our app with the container. So we're going to use docker run command, and we're going to map the port let's say we want the port to be 8008, and just some made up numbers. Hopefully this port is not taken. And the port export I can't speak. The port that we specified that would be exposed by the Docker image, the nginx server would be listening to is 80, so we're going to map that to 80. And then we're going to run this in detach mode. Okay, so so this option is saying that we want to run in detach mode. And now we're going to specify the image we want to run, so which is this one. I'm going to copy and paste and hit enter. Let's see if it's running or not. Yeah, it's running. As you can see, this image is running currently in that container. And now we're not running our application. We're not, we're not running it in the development mode. So if we try to access localhost 2200, it would not display anything. So the set cannot be reached. But if we switch to the port 8008, there we go. We have our application successfully hosted by Docker container, and yeah, so that should make the deployment process a lot easier, because now we can just deploy the Docker image. Well, that's all for today's video. Once again, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you all have a good day, and bye bye.